So she said in the traditional hunting dog world, so the e-collar's used extensively, and a lot of the old timers use the collar on everything. They teach with the collar. They use it very, very intensely on a lot of behaviors, and without the collar, they don't have any behaviors, right? They have what we call a collar-wise dog, right? So there's a whole variety of ways to avoid this, and it's a big subject, but it applies to all kinds of training tools, right? So one of the things about traditional pressure training in dog training is if I teach that way with pressure, right, my dog has one incentive to do the behavior, to escape or avoid pressure. There's no other reason for them to do it, right? And so if they can figure out that they don't have to, they don't want to, there's no incentive, right? If I train with a reward-based system and then finish it with pressure as necessary, my dog has two incentives, right? My dog already liked the behavior. It already knew what it was. And so now, if I pressure the dog, now they have a double incentive, and in the absence of the pressure, they are still incentivized because they were incentivized before that. They learned to like these behaviors, right? And so now I have twice as many incentives. So they're less likely to be stuck and reliant on that physical tool. It's also how the tool's introduced, right? People do poor jobs of habituating the dog to the collar, right? There's a whole bunch of, meaning they don't have the dog wear the collar ahead of time. They put it on right before they're going to train. They take it off right after they come off training. And those dogs get wise to that stuff. Oh, it's this magic collar you have on me. And because that's the only thing driving the behavior, there's no other reason for them to listen to you. Then when it's off and they figure it out, they're like, okay, great. Other things that people do all the time, there is classic, you see this all the time, people giving commands and stimulation at the same time. People are doing this a lot, right? Sit, 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 right? Come, 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 right? That kind of thing. Remember we talked overshadowing, blocking, right? Two signals given at the same time. The one that's more relevant to the dog overshadows the other, and the dog's responding to that one. So if I'm stimming my dog or pulling on the leash or making a gesture or any of those things, at the same time I'm giving a command, I think my dog's responding to the command, they're actually responding to the stimulation. And people that mistime their stimulation work now have taught the stimulation as the command for the behavior. Collar comes off, no stimulation, no behavior. Bad dog? No. You taught the dog that the stim was the command for the behavior, right? And so there's mechanical issues as well, potentially, in those things, right? And then also people get so preemptive with it that they're doing it without giving the dog the opportunity to perform without it and reinforcing the performance without the stimulation. So the e-collar is not an inherently evil tool, right? It's a very useful tool, right? And in hunting dog work, because there's so much distance work, it has a definite place. The hunting dog people just don't do the groundwork, typically, right? And then all those mechanical failings. Like there's a different way, like I've planned on this and I talked to Ed about it and I've planned on this for years and I just haven't got the time. I would love to do a DVD on hunting dog foundation work, what we call yard work, right? All the basic behaviors that get taken to the field, right? I'm not into hunting, so like I'm a avid bird watcher, a birder, not a hunter, but so I don't have any interest in going out in the field and learning the handling for trials and that kind of stuff. But the foundation stuff's just straightforward, basic dog training stuff. And if I think a lot of people had a different way of approaching the foundation skills so they can incentivize the dogs to do these behaviors without pressure, then the pressure that they did have to use in the field would be much more effective and they wouldn't be as reliant on it, right? And so all the basic target work, yard work, distance, whistle sits, retrieve, all that stuff, there's a much better way of teaching it than most of the traditional bird dog trainers do. But they're in a hurry too. You go to the top lab people, like the field trial lab people, like they want to get their started retriever title at 10 months old or 9 months old, right? They're slapping a knee collar on their 7-month-old dog and doing a forced fetch on this super high drive lab who tolerates it, right? That's one of the things. They have dogs, they have genetic material that'll tolerate that nonsense, right? But they all want to have the youngest dog with a started title or whatever the heck it is, right? Which is kind of crazy, right, to me, right? Yeah. And so a bunch of that kind of stuff, that culture is I think, ripe for a revolution, right? Like the bird dog, and the thing that'll make revolution in all of the disciplines, the thing that'll make people think, and it happened in IGP. So in my lifetime, they changed the rules in Schutzend, as it changed its name over and over and over again, right? They changed the rules to say that your dog has to look happy. You're going to be strongly penalized if your dog looks pressured. And so now I need dogs to do things precisely with speed and energy, and they have to look like they're enjoying it, right? So now you can't do all the stuff you used to do. You can't go out there and just hammer them around for healing. The judge is going to say, yep, the dog's pressured. I can't go out and do a traditional straight-up forced fetch anymore, right? Because the dog will lay its ears back and zoom out there and fetch and come in like this. Perfect retrieve, showing pressure, right? So all you have to do for every discipline is put an aesthetic component on it. I want them to do it in ring sport too. Pick 1 or 2 exercises in the obedience in ring sport and say, your dog has to show attitude in this exercise, healing and something else. Then you can't train the way they traditionally train anymore. That'll change the whole ball game. Everybody will have to get on board, right? Because your dog will show the pressure. And if you do pure pressure teaching, your dog can be very reliable, certainly, but you're going to know. You can look at the dog and say, yep, that dog looks pressured, for sure. They're doing their job. And so that, to me, is what's going to finally make the other disciplines wake up. And so if suddenly the hunting dog associations, that's a long way off there, say you're going to have an aesthetic component to the thing, then they won't be able to do that anymore, right? And they're focused on one thing specifically, and they're not paying attention to any of the other stuff. Like I always watch, we're talking, I'm going to go off on a tangent here again. Like we watch the contact healing stuff we were talking about. Watch a hunting retriever go to the start line at a field trial. The guy's going heel, the dog's like peeing on stuff and all over the place. And as soon as it hits the start, poof, now I know where my job is. That dog, can't walk to the start line. Like I have not seen one dog, the top field trial retrievers in the world, would walk with their person up to the line under control. Like they don't know how heel is at all. And I'm like, that would be so easy. And they're like, oh, well, I don't want the dog to focus on me. I want the dog focusing on the field. Well, that's what contact healing's for. That's what we do in protection work, right? I want you focused on the decoy, but you stay with me. So I can easily teach my lab to contact heel to the start line and look out in the field. And I have a dog controlled walking right with me, right to the start line. He never looks at me, right? It's easy. I don't know why they don't do it. Anyway, time. It's not pointed. It's not worth their effort, like all that stuff. That's why the ring sport people don't teach healing. Yes.